RC Crawler Man here with Mario, and today we're going to go over the bomber bouncer, what my setup is, what my upgrades are, and why I love this rig. Alright guys, starting up front here with the plastic AR-60 housings. I used to run Vanquish. I simply use these because they're lighter weight. The pumpkin's a little bigger, but rarely gets in my way. I'm running stock universals from Axial, a stock ring and gear, and a locker from Incision, and all that's held up great with a 4S LiPo and a 3100 kV Tekin 550 motor, and really haven't had any issues. Just another angle here, guys, of the axle, and you'll see kind of the heart and soul of the front axle is that deluxe fab truss. It allows you to mount your servo a little lower to get that center of gravity lower, and believe it or not, you can feel it. That's a 2290 Savox servo. It has been fantastic, one of my favorite servos, highly recommend. You can also see I'm still running the stock shocks. I drilled some bigger holes in the pistons, added those low friction shafts and some 15 weight oil, and they've been very plush and pretty impressive. Beyond that, you can see the double shear Vanquish knuckles, some Vanquish C-hubs, and that diff cover up front from SSD to kind of finish it off. Then onto the rear axle here, once again, nothing real super special. That stock plastic housing, stock ring and gears, stock axles, and I am running MIP drive shafts front and rear. A lot of people complain about the stock drivetrain. We give these things the business all the time, and other than the lockers being kind of a weak point, if something breaks, it was generally my fault, but we've had great experiences with that. Those are Vanquish swing arms, and once again the stock shocks. I did swap out the stock springs for the next softest spring, 15 weight oil with those low friction shafts again, and it's been very plush. I run them kind of straight up and down, that's my preference. Then that Vanquish Anti-Sway Bar going into that Circle City RC 3D printed anti-sway bar mount that just kind of flips the mount. Unfortunately, that mount is no longer available. And then also you can see the most important mod is that Kentucky license plates. Now, I know this isn't the best view, and I wanted to show it to you with everything assembled, and I'm going to go through a few different camera angles and just kind of show you what this thing looks like and what it does. You can see right here towards the middle of your screen to top is this carbon plate separated by these little standoffs here, and that relocates your motor to that lower position and more forward. This is the high altitude gearbox, and in the next one of the next frames I'll show you why this is important. It houses some SCX 10 gears, a longer output shaft so we can fit our drive shaft on there. Then this little carbon plate here is originally intended to house a battery, and you can see small slots for a Velcro strap. I had a heck of a time getting the battery in there with an interior and everything installed. You have to kind of reach up under the belly of the rig to get it in there, and it was really difficult. So maybe in a future version some type of quick release or really strong Velcro, if you want to put your battery there, would be a better solution. I currently put my ESC there, which is a Mamba X, and then I put my battery up in the original bomber location, and that's been fine. It's been a good solution. Now just a quick shot of the bottom of the skid, and I've got the stock bomber skid down here, and if you can see these uneven surfaces, believe it or not, that may not look like much and it may look very smooth, but that gets hung up. It gets caught on stuff and drove me bananas for quite some time. So from just the standpoint of a smooth bottom skid, this is a huge improvement. And then you can see this little carbon plate, which I believe the intent is just to protect your motor. I was a little skeptical about that, but you can see it's taken a beating and holds up totally fine. So from this straight on side view, I'm basically just trying to show you where exactly the high altitude skid and forward motor setup relocates the motor to. So on the left side of your frame, I'm going to kind of poke my screwdriver in there. This area is where the bulk of the weight from the stock gearbox and motor location lived. Now, stock with the battery and electronics and everything in there, I think it was probably a pretty balanced setup, but a little high on the center of gravity, And then with the high altitude RC, you can see that, and I'm just going to poke this in here slowly, that's the motor and the end bell. So it moves it way forward from the previous setup and way lower. I mean, you can see that little part there under the curve of this high clearance link is that carbon plate that we saw from the previous view. So quite a change in where the weight lives. Now, how I have it set up, I'm not sure, like for bashers or U4 guys, if this is going to be advantageous. I really don't know, to be totally honest. But on the hill climbs, it seems pretty good. It's balanced. It's not too forward heavy, and as long as you have your front shocks set up well, it performs real nice on the hills. Now, we're looking through the rear at the very back of the high altitude gearbox, and what I'm just trying to show you here is this kind of cool little feature, or the way it's designed. Now, in the stock SCX10 gearbox, all of the gears are enclosed, but in the high altitude, and you can't really see, but here at the bottom of the gearbox you can just tell it's much shorter. That big gear actually protrudes out of the bottom of the gear case and sets into the skid. So the skid is effectively part of the bottom of the gearbox, which is just an attempt to move it as low as possible, which I just think is kind of a neat little engineering-y thing. Now, it is a popular opinion, and probably correct, that the most important part of your setup is the tire. It's the only part that touches the dirt, and I have to agree, it makes a huge difference. So what we have here is a Vanquish 2.2 wheel, a custom Delrin beadlock rings, and the Voodoo U4 tire, and you can see it's got a custom cut on it. On the website it has some recommendations on cut patterns. I can't sit here and tell you this is the best tire in the world, but it's certainly been great for me. I'm running a two-stage Crawler Innovations medium foam setup in it, and it's been very good. Now, that softer setup does cause a lot of rollover, so once again, for U4 or basher guys, I don't know if this particular setup would be the best for you, but for all-out grip on a hill, it's been very good. And that wraps it up for the bomber build, guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment. I'm sure there's something I maybe didn't cover. I'm going to drop some links for some of the products, especially the high altitude RC skid. And thanks for watching. Smash that like button.